Y'all, this is insane. I know that the Game Awards is on right now, but I never expected Sega to actually be announcing, rebooting the entire classic video game franchise that we've all known to love and appreciate. But the biggest thing that really got me excited for it is the fact that they're actually rebooting Golden Axe, Shinobi, and Streets of Rage, aka Bare Knuckle. They're actually doing it right now. Now, as a Sega fan, because you know I grew up with Sega, I had my first Sega Genesis when I was a kid, but it's the fact that they're actually rebooting the entire franchise. Now, if they're gonna do that, they better have Sonic in the reboot as well, because for the past couple of years, they've put out every single Sonic titles. Some were good, and some right now are just very questionable. But for the most part, they're just going absolutely insane, just rebooting the entire franchise that a lot of us are in need for a restart. And that's saying something. So it says, Sega rebooting retro franchises including Crazy Taxi and Streets of Rage as Gaming Corp eyes Hollywood expansion. That should be enough for you to be excited. This is crazy. Dust off those joysticks. Sega is rebooting a handful of retro franchises including Crazy Taxi, Streets of Rage, Golden Axe, Jet Set Radio, and Shinobi. The Japanese gaming giant announced the new Innovative, which will revive a number of IPs as all new video games developed for today's audiences, December 7th at the Game Awards show. Sega also showed the Los Angeles audiences a trailer that previews footage of the new games which are currently in development, as two of the rebooted titles already have film adaptations in development. Sega eyes Hollywood ambitions beyond its successful Sonic movie franchise. A Shinobi movie adaptation from Mark Platt and Stories International was announced back in 2016, and Lionsgate landed film rights to Streets of Rage last year, recruiting John Wick writer Derek Cosley. Now, the Shinobi part, I can only imagine if they cast someone with some of the best martial arts experience, someone who has been in hundreds of martial arts movies all these years, or an actor who is known for just his incredible martial arts work. But a Shinobi movie that was going to be made in 2016, if I would have known that, I would have probably just started a YouTube channel just talking about it. It's the fact that Sega is just going beyond crazy right now, rebooting every single video game titles from the 90s to now getting two of the biggest franchises on the big screen. Sonic is doing great right now, but when Streets of Rage comes out, it's a done deal. It's a done deal. Sonic is definitely a blueprint for us. Sega Shuji, I can't pronounce his last name, told Variety in an interview before the Game Awards show. First, we really want to create the games and appeal to the gamers. The game is first, however, if we are creating the world and the characters that gamers love, that means if filmmakers love that kind of direction that can inspire the movies, so why not? And I think it all started with the Sonic franchise in 2020. Now, I had a blast watching this movie. I love those movies, Sonic 1 and 2. And if Shadow ends up beating the brakes out of Sonic in the third movie, I would have definitely loved... Okay, here's the thing. I would have definitely loved to see just the 3D characters. The Sonic characters. The CGI characters instead of like the human characters. Even though they were done fine in the first movie, but the second one, I feel like they overdid it too much. Too long, instead of just focusing on Sonic based on Sonic 3, because that's what the second movie is based off of. But if you haven't been playing the games, I think you will know. A little funny story. It was like years ago before 2020 came along. Years ago, I was almost this close of beating Sonic and Knuckles. How crazy is that? I think that should tell you my overall experience with the character and the games as a whole. With 2020's Sonic the Hedgehog grossing $319 million at the worldwide box office, and 2022's sequel ranking at $405 million, Sega is looking to spin new films, television series, and licensed products off of other legacy titles. Beyond the 5 robots announced, Usumi says there are additional projects Sega is currently evaluating but has not yet greenlight. While nailing down specific release dates for the new Crazy Taxi, Streets of Rage, Golden Axe, Jet Set Radio, and Shinobi games is a long way away. Usumi estimates that the earliest reboots will arrive in the range of 2 years. Now, I think I would rather for them to just take their time, whatever they're doing, because this is the first time we ever heard anything from Sega in a long time, y'all. But the craziest thing about all of this is that even though the newer titles are announced, is the fact that you're rebooting every single video game titles from the 90s like Golden Axe, Shinobi, and Streets of Rage, bare knuckle. I'm surprised Sonic is not even in this category because that was their mascot in the 90s to this day. But good that they're actually focusing on other projects like Streets of Rage, Shinobi, and Golden Axe. Those were like the clash of the titans of the 16-bit era. Like Golden Axe, Shinobi franchise, even the Streets of Rage franchise, to those who love beat 'em ups. Even to this day, the reboots will feature all new gameplay, and Usumi promises they will appeal to both those who play the original titles and young gamers who grew up clutching the iPad. The Sega COO, who also served as the CEO of Sega of America, said the company was inspired to make its own IP from the late 80s and the early 90s and the early 2000s because it believes gaming's footprint in the mainstream culture is growing. Usumi, a key architect in 1994 launch of the PlayStation, remembers pitching a movie based on the popular Crash Bandicoot game series. What? Okay, at some point Sega is just going ballistic right now. They're making every single reboot of the video game franchise, but the fact that no, can you honestly imagine of them making a Crash Bandicoot movie? Like, if you get someone like Bradley Cooper, Jim Carrey, or Seth Rogen, someone who is a comedian that can play the character well, because Crash doesn't talk. All he does is make sounds when he gets hurt or when he dies in certain levels, and that's it. Like a Crash Bandicoot movie, imagine that. Usumi, a key architect in the 1994 launch of the PlayStation, remembers pitching a movie based on the popular Crash Bandicoot game series. I was in the elevator pitching positions. I had to say, hey, trying to get their attention, and movie guys treated us like the S word. He laughs like it was just a joy or a toy. I guess that's what happens when you just try to pitch something in the 90s, because everybody was just being dicks as usual. But nowadays, they're just accepting everything and just trying to make things work. But I mean, if they were smart enough, they wouldn't allow this crap to happen. But it's possible that it might end up being announced of who's going to be cast as Crash Bandicoot. But I believe they had an animated TV show back then. I don't know. I'm going to have to look it up. Nowadays, directors and producers play many of the games that I produce, and they respect us. They respect our games too. Usumi continues. They understand the audiences. They understand the spirit. That's why more game themed movies have been successful. Facts. He's been encouraged by the success of non-Sega video game adaptations as well, saying he of course saw Nintendo and, well, the Super Mario Brothers movie, which did incredible in the box office this year. I did a review of it in my YouTube shorts, go check it out. And I personally enjoyed that movie. I loved it from the beginning to end. It was the perfect balanced Nintendo movie done right. Mario pretty much follows the game, I would say. Ours have a bit more new fantasy added, he says. Those filmmakers approached it a different way, but they are still successful because they understand the value of the game. There are many different great approaches, which is true. And when you think about it, I think in Hollywood, someone who is either a fan of those games or they're not really into it, so they're just making a movie because they don't know nothing about it. Because if you do stuff like that, then you have no business making a movie in the first place, or any other projects that you don't know nothing about, don't ever touch it. The Sonic movies feature a computer-generated blue Speedy Hedgehog voiced by Ben Schwartz, along live-action actors Jim Carrey and James Marsden. While Chris Pratt starring in Mario movies is fully animated, which is true. If only the Sonic movies were like that, without the human characters, but you can still have them in the real world, but not have human characters. Just imagine that. Besides Jim Carrey as Eggman, so. Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which is dated for December 20th, 2024, features Sega mainstay Shadow, who was teased in the post-credit scene in Sonic 2, given the company's newfound cross-media approach. It wouldn't be a surprise if the black and red anti-hero dashed into the new Sonic game. There is a lot of excitement around the appearances of Shadow. Usumi says, with a proof of belt wink, maybe we want to push that direction in other Sonic transmedia's internets, which is interesting. So I believe there's so let's check it out.
Yo.
What's this? What? Oh, that's a Streets of Rage reference. That is definitely a Streets of Rage reference. The city and the power outage. What is this? Shinobi?
Let me reintroduce it.
So I'm assuming this is Crazy Taxi. What the heck? Unbelievable, bruh. Sega, you have outdone yourselves once again. We have to go back and talk about some things I noticed in the trailer. Bruh. Axel couldn't look so much good in 3D. This is crazy, bro. I think they're pretty much going like a 3D beat 'em up. I have no problem with it. I literally have no problem with it. So I think the Streets of Rage reboot is my #1 interest in the Sega games. I'm so glad that they're actually keeping in touch with the Streets of Rage franchise, because we've been dying to know all of this since it was announced last year that they were going to be in film by Lionsgate and you get the John Wick writer and producers are now involved in it, but just seeing Axel in 3D is something interesting. Although I'm not the biggest fan of the animation still, but still, I don't care, I'm excited. Look at how, bruh. Streets of Rage in 3D, dude. The last time they tried that, it was like in the late 90s and early 2000s where it was another series that is trying to be based off the Streets of Rage, but it went nowhere. Dog, Sega is killing it right now. It's not just the Streets of Rage that I'm into. Look at this. Shinobi. This is giving me Shinobi 3 vibes because if y'all remember in that level where he was riding a horse and he was fighting all of these random ninjas, then this yellow ninja as a boss just comes out of nowhere with a parachute or whatever, and he was trying to fight Shinobi. But if you're gonna speed run at that game, you will know how to beat that level real quick. But seeing a demon-like creature in the sky chasing Shinobi while he's riding his, like, I think a wolf, a dog, or something. This is bringing me back. This was so much needed. Like, wow. Look at Golden Axe in 3D. I'm getting too excited about this though. The Sega characters in 3D, they look so much better than they did back then. The Golden Axe tried that. Failed. Shinobi, it had like multiple titles in 3D, but I don't think it was done right. Sega, thank you. Thank you for coming back strong and getting us happy again. I could always appreciate the 2D and the 3D era of the old school games, which I am proud of continuing to play because it's in our nature. We grew up playing those games. You know what? This is probably one of the best articles I've read all day, even though I stumbled when it comes to one part, but I had to edit that part out. But y'all, Golden Axe, Shinobi, Streets of Rage. Like, how are you not excited about these titles being rebooted in 3D form? Shinobi is staying 2D, traditional 2D formula. I don't care, the animation looks great. So does Streets of Rage, Golden Axe, Crazy Taxi. Listen, I don't know nothing about those other two titles, but I'm only familiar with the ones I grew up with in the 90s. So this is, man, I'm telling you, they're going all out with the bang in 2023. I love it. I love it. Link to the article will be down below. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know.